Hi everyone, welcome to another Josekis lesson. In this video, let's keep talking about what happens after black takes the 3-3 point after white's pincer at number 6. And this video will focus on this so-called trick move at number 10, this hane. First of all, a note on the phrase trick move. I don't really like the phrase because it's not that accurate. You can see it as a move that could be a mistake if the opponent responds correctly, but it could also help white gain an advantage. I guess that's what trick move means, but it's not always meant to be a trick. If my opponent plays this hane, then for me that's just a wrong move. It's not a trick move. So as long as you know how to handle this correctly, you'll be fine. And also, this number 10 hane seems like a favorite among YouTubers who have Go channels. Not every YouTube has logical step-by-step beginner tutorials, as I do, but most of them like covering trick moves because these are fun, these are cool. But unfortunately for them, most of those are early AI or pre-AI. Our understanding of this trick move at number 10 is actually improved. So you will have to watch this video for a latest understanding on this. And it's actually quite different from our pre-AI or even early AI understanding of what happens after number 10. So let's look at number 10 first. Right? So compare with this move and this variation that we introduced in the past couple of videos. I'll call this the original variation. It's not that original, but this is the standard variation. Okay? I'll just call it the standard or original variation. Just remember this. We'll compare some of the patterns with this one later on. So number 10 here is these 3 stones are solid, no flaws, but the trade-off with number 10 here is that this move is keeping black's liberties shorter, but white also has a cutting point here. Right. So that's what number 10 is trying to do. It's trying to keep black's liberties short, and it's hoping that black will crawl on the second line instead of coming out on the third line. Right. So that's what number 10 is hoping to do, but its weakness is its cutting point. And if you're black in this situation, you have 4 viable moves, A, B, C, and D. 1 or 2 of these are actually not as viable as 2 others. So let's dig into this. Let's just go from the order of A, B, C, and D and see what happens. So originally, if you play right here, this hane on the second line, the conclusion is black has just fallen for the trick. White will very happily play here on the third line, and black will play this hane in connection to finish this shape. In the past, white's 18 will connect here. Now AI will suggest that playing here on the second line is slightly better. It's about the same, but playing here is slightly better. In the past, and in many of those outdated videos, the conclusion is this is clearly good for white because white has a wall on the outside, and black has been pushed down from the third line in the standard or original variation to the second line. And that's no good. You would always prefer the third line to the second line. But guess what? The latest version of Katago, as of April 2024, when this video is made, says this is actually better for black compared to the standard variation. Why is that? Seems like a pretty crazy conclusion, because when you see this pattern in the corner, it's usually in the context of this very old 3-3 Joseki. So this would be a modern Joseki that's slightly better for black. But after black plays this exchange, this is actually better for white because white's wall here is very solid. So compare this to this. Compare these 2 corners. What's the difference? The difference is really about black having a stone on the outside and white having another cutting point here at number 31. And that really is the difference. So what AI is saying here is that this weakness on the outside is actually really valuable and it will make a difference. So if you're a beginner or an amateur, you have to decide whether you can kind of make use of this cutting point and start a fight on the outside. If not, then this probably benefits white. But if you are good at fighting, you can make use of number 5, then this is actually pretty good for black. So this first variation after number 10 kind of already changes our perception of this whole thing. In the past, we thought the second line necessarily has to be bad. But now AI is saying, not really. Because of this weakness, and also, really importantly, black has sente in this variation. Black can play elsewhere. Whereas in the standard variation, white has sente. And that makes a huge difference as well. And that is why AI actually prefers this pattern for black compared to the standard variation. And that is actually the opposite conclusion compared to our pre-AI or even early AI understanding of this pattern. One other variation to show after number 11 is this double hane. It's like a double trick move. So if you fall for it, it will capture number 12 this way. This would be a standard Joseki if you ignore number 5 and 6, right? Usually this is still a standard Joseki that even AI would suggest under certain circumstances, so it's perfectly fine for both sides to play. But the problem here is that number 5 is misplaced, right? Usually you sacrifice one more to gain a few more liberties, and then black can play right here on the second line, threatening to move out, right? If white ignores it, then black will move out, and these 3 stones on the corner for white will just die, right? So this is how it's played. If you play here, as number 5 is, it's not putting any pressure on white, right? It's kind of a wasted move, and of course white pincers is putting a lot of pressure on number 5. So this exchange is actually very bad for black, right? It's not gaining black anything, it's not threatening the corner. That's why if black plays this way, then this will be a bad exchange for black, 5 and 6. So what black should do now is to actually make use of number 5. Black should Atari this way, forcing white to connect. White always have to connect number 10. This is the most important stone in white's shape, so you always have to connect to number 10. It may not be obvious to beginners, so I like to point that out. And now what can black do? Black can actually play here number 15, and these 2 white stones are already dead, number 4 and 8. So what should white do? Again, white should extend here, extending liberties, right? You want to extend liberties, sacrificing one more stone. And the idea is that you can make use of black's potential weakness on the outside more. Otherwise, if you get captured very soon, then there's not much for you to make use of these dead stones. And now, white should probably just capture this stone. It's 1 real eye, so this group is mostly settled. It's very easy to find another real eye. And what happens now is that there's a capture race on the corner. Seems like black has eye space and white doesn't, but if black ignores it, then white can kill black with number 22 right here at the 2-1 point. So you can try some of the variations on your own, and white will succeed. Be something like this, 2 liberties versus 3. Be something like this. White is all connected, again, 2 liberties versus 3. So this is a capture race, but of course for black it's very easy. Black just needs to play here, and white is dead. The advantage of sacrificing number 16 is that white still has 2 liberties left, and potentially white can play on the outside, threatening this cut, and black will have to connect here. So this will be a favorable exchange for white. That's why you sacrifice one more stone. But still, after white double trick moves, right, at number 10 and 12, this actually favors black because the corner territory is pretty sizable, and number 6 is potentially a weak group on the outside. Right, so this will be good for black because white really doesn't have anything. It lost a couple of stones, lost the corner, and this group on the left side is not in the best shape to develop on the left side. So this definitely favors black, and that's why number 12 doesn't really work. So that's number 11. Let's talk about this cutting point. The conclusion on this move actually haven't changed. It seems very intuitive for a lot of beginners. At least to me, I think when I was starting out, I would think if you play this hane, exposing this cutting point, I would just want to cut right away. But this is actually wrong. This is actually not right. Because what white can do is to get to this hane on the second line, which is a very important exchange for both sides. Right? For black, it will be this. Right? If white plays on the left side like this, then this hane will really shorten these 2 stones' liberties. And this will be a disaster for white. Because in this situation, it's even worse because white can't even capture number 11 on the ladder. Number 3 here on the lower right will break the ladder. It'll be an extremely tough fight for white. Right? These 2 stones on the left are under pressure. These 2 stones are about to be captured. You have to save them. Number 6 is isolated, and this will be a very tough fight for white. So that's why playing here, the hane on the second line is extremely important. So now black is actually in a tough position. Black must Atari here on the second line. If you Atari this way, then the corner will be dead. And black must continue crawling here. Right? If you make a living shape this way, then the outside, these 2 stones are really broken. So this will be a very tough fight for black. White is very strong on the outside. So the best black can do is to keep crawling a couple more times, and then you get sente here on the left, then you try to pull out number 11. Right? So the side is already alive. It'll be something like this. 1 real eye by capturing number 24, another real eye here. Right? So that's why you crawl on the second line, get to another real eye. But what white can do is simply play this attachment underneath, and white is connected with number 6. Black should not play in number 23. You shouldn't try these moves. It just makes it worse for black. So after number 22, black can take sente. We'll try to take care of these 2 stones, but it'll be a tougher fight for black. And black's corner is not that big, right? It's kind of forced to play on the second line. It's not a big corner, and white is very strong on the outside. So this fight actually doesn't favor black at all. And that is why number 11 doesn't work, because white can get to this Hane and connection on the second line, and black will be in a tough spot. So let's look at this move. So this used to be the correct move. One of the two correct moves, right? These two used to be considered the correct moves. But now the conclusion is that this one's still the correct move, and this one, as we've discussed, can also be seen as the correct move. This used to be the correct move because the idea is that white cannot play at number 12, whose aim is to cut off number 5 from the corner. Because now, after this exchange, black can cut. And this is especially harsh, because either number 10 will be killed, like this, or these 3 stones will be killed, like this. Right? They are very short on liberties, and there's just no way they can escape. Number 17 will just kill all this group. Right? Doesn't work. So that's why number 13 will give black a huge advantage locally. And the best white can do is probably just connect here. That was our understanding. But whenever I played this variation, I had my doubts, because I didn't really dislike white. I think this is pretty solid shape for white, and white gets to playing this pressing attachment at number 14, which really keeps black low. It could be something like this, or something like this, right? White plays the double Hane, and black can take Sente, actually. So white actually has a pretty solid wall, and black is fairly low. Black takes the corner, but black is fairly low. And AI actually agrees. AI actually says this is slightly better for white compared with the standard variation. So the so-called correct move in our past understanding actually is no longer that correct. It's okay, right? It's definitely playable for both sides, but it actually doesn't give black an advantage, right? Like this cutting point doesn't really exist at this point. Black only has 1 stone, and white, these 2 groups are in pretty good shape, right? So white is not afraid of this cut. So this shape is pretty complete. And AI is even suggesting this move. Black still has to bend here to connect with number 5. And AI actually prefers this to white. But depending on your preference, it may be a little tougher to handle when black breaks out to fight, right? So personally, I prefer this, which AI says is slightly worse than number 12 and the tiger's mouth. But I think these are very similar for amateurs and beginners. So this actually slightly favors white compared to the original variation, but of course playable for both sides. The thing to note here is that number 11 is no longer considered the correct move. What's correct is right here, this Hane. The difference is that it's keeping more pressure on these 2 white stones. And now the suggested move by AI is actually for white to play here on the outside. And now black still needs another move to connect with number 5. What white can do is to descend here, and black can break out and start a fight. Right, so black will be in a good position to fight. Number 6 is relatively isolated, right? Either this diagonal move or something like this. Black will start a fight. And white has a couple of ideas. White can either try to save number 6, which may not be a very good idea, but you can. Or white can try to develop on the left side, right? Kind of giving up number 6, and play something like this. But this still favors black, I would say, because white's corner is being taken, and black has a very solid position on the upper side. But number 14 is a solid move, because the life and death implications here is that if white plays, black still doesn't have 2 real eyes. But of course, if black plays, black is still alive. But at the beginning of a game, when you can break out like this, you do not want to make 2 real eyes. It's simply too slow. And if white wants to destroy black's eye space, playing here at the 2-2 point will be the correct move. Theoretically, right, blacks can still make a living shape this way. But again, number 21, 23, very inefficient moves when you can break out and maybe find extra eyes elsewhere. So that's the logic behind black's breaking out. You don't want to make 2 eyes here because it's too slow. If you can break out and start a fight and isolate number 6 here, you should do that. So number 12 is actually the suggested move. And the difference is that white can no longer contain black comfortably, right? You can try something like this, but now black will get to play here on the second line. The corner is actually quite big. It's more than 10 points. And the left side is still open, right? The left side is not sealed off. Black can still come in this way very easily. And white's wall is not that strong. So this would definitely favor black. And that's why AI actually prefers this move to leave some space for black to break out. So this is the best you can do according to AI after black's number 11. But of course, intuitively, we would want to play this Hane and connection for white. Right? Note that white cannot play here on the second line because now black can cut. And what happens now is that white will have to save number 10. but black can just Atari a couple times and capture these 2 white stones. This will be disastrous for white. So white's number 14 cannot be here. In this situation, white can only connect if it wants to. And now it's decision time for black. There are 2 moves. One always works and one is situational. The situational move is this cut. It can potentially be really harsh, but really, really important. You have to make sure that number 15 cannot be captured on a ladder by number 18, right? By this setup at number 16 and number 18. In this situation, number 3 will break the ladder. If you calculate, number 3 will break the ladder, so white cannot capture number 15 this way. So black can start this fight. If black will be captured this way, then black should not play here. Right? So the sequence is also important to remember. After black cuts, white's only viable move is this extension. Right? White should not try something like this, otherwise number 10 will be captured like this. And black will gain a huge advantage here. Right? Compare this to the standard variation. It's a huge difference because black is on the 4th line and is very strong on the outside. So white must extend here, and the next move is also really important for black. Black has to play this clamp at number 17. Really, really important. It might be tempting for black to play something like this, but this actually puts black at a disadvantage because white can play number 18. It's forcing these 2 stones will have to be taken care of. And after this exchange, if you play this again, then white can simply play at number 22, and this will be very tough for black. If you break out this way, black will have sacrificed these few stones needlessly, and white actually has an advantage here. And if black tries to save these stones, then white can play here, but black is not completely alive in the corner. So black will have some kind of gote, right? You can do this exchange first, but it'll be a gote for black to live on the corner. And this will actually be a very good fight for white. White has a better position here than black. So that is why black actually needs to be really careful. Black needs to play this clamping move first. If white tries to capture black this way, then you're cutting because you can escape. Then you should escape, right? If you let white have this panuki on the outside, this will still favor white. White is so solid. So you should break out and fight. But number 17 really keeps white's liberties short. Now it'll be tough for white because if white keeps playing this, then this is actually quite dangerous, right? White has a cutting point here, and black can kill white with number 23, or even this, right? So white can't really keep playing the Atari. White probably play something like this, and this will be a much better fight for black. But the bottom line is that black should get to this clanking move first. And the best move AI suggests is actually this. Seems like a very ugly shape, but it's probably the best white can do in this situation. And black can probably just connect here, and white can Atari this way. This will still be a better fight for black to handle. You can play out some of the variations on your own. If white plays something like this won't be good. But compare this with black playing a few moves here, right? Black is only sacrificing number 15 here, but it's breaking out. Number 6 here is isolated. Be something like this, then it'll be actually pretty good for black. White doesn't have a whole lot going on here on the left side. Black still has moves like this that can really annoy white. So this will be a better fight for black. But the bottom line is that if you're afraid of fighting, or if white can capture black with this ladder, depending on the circumstances, black should not play this cut at number 15. So the last variation, which is the standard, used to be the correct answer as well, now it's still correct, is this clamping move. And white can only connect here, and black will connect at number 17. So compare this to the standard or original variation, we see that white has basically played this push and block exchange at number 10 and 17. And this will be a bad exchange. And of course, number 14 is connected instead of playing here on the second line. Right? So this will be a worse shape for white. Why? Because number 10 is a very valuable co-threat that's threatening to kill the entire corner. Right? So white just wasted a co-threat. Of course, white has other co-threats here, but white just wasted one major one. And even worse, white has really reduced its own liberties on the outside because white is not completely alive, might still come under attack, and losing one liberty could be critical. Whereas black doesn't really care. Black is already alive, the corner doesn't really care about this push. So that's why in the original variation, white does not follow up the Joseki with this push and block, right? Because it's a very bad exchange. Now if white descends here, now black can cut. Black is in a much better position to fight. If white plays something like this, then either these 4 stones will be killed this way, or these two stones will be killed. So number 18 here, this cut is not viable. The best white can try is probably this. Now black can just connect. White will have to save these 3 stones, but playing something like this, now black can clamp again, and this will be a very tough fight for white. White can save these stones for now, but look at the shape. Black is in a much better position to fight. That's why number 16 is not a good idea. And the best white can do in this situation is this. And this seems rather peaceful, I think, for beginners or amateur players, but number 10 and 17, this exchange is actually pretty bad for white. And that's it. These are all the variations. So what's the bottom line? The bottom line has actually changed. In the past, we would say the trick is hoping that black would crawl here on the second line and play this exchange. This way, white succeeds. That was our conventional wisdom before AI, but now AI is saying this is actually better for black because black has Sente and white still has weaknesses on the outside. And it doesn't really matter that black came out on the third line in the original variation. As I explained in the previous video, it's actually not that valuable according to AI. So our conclusion now is that if you just fall for the trick with number 11 and number 13, you actually gain an advantage. So that's something really important to know. And of course, this cut still doesn't work. White will just get to this point and it'll be a tougher fight for black. This descent used to be the correct move, but now it's a little slow because white can get to a very solid position on the outside. That's why this Hane is better. It keeps more pressure on white. And the best white can do is probably this, allowing black to break out this way or this way. And if white chooses to fight, black has 2 options, either the cut when this ladder does not favor white. When you can escape on this ladder, this will be a better fight for black. And remember, always get to this clamp first, not something on the left side. These are wrong, 17 and 19. Always get to this clamp first. But if this ladder doesn't favor black, black can clamp here. Now white cannot descend. White can only connect here, and black will connect with number 17. And this will be a very good exchange for black. Number 10 and number 17 added to the original variation. I hope everything made sense. As always, if you like this channel, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Good luck, and thank you for watching.